No problem. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hooman. Hi, welcome to the National Quiz Choice Online News Save Hyatt column for the Hyatt hotels around the world and travelers. Thank you for joining me today. I now have a very special guest here in Singapore. That is Dr. Hooman Peimani, who is actually the head of Energy Security Division for Energy Studies Institute for National University of Singapore. Today he's going to explain to us what's happening in the Middle East and trends on energy, and as well as other issues that's coming up that's challenging for the world. He has a book that has been published called The Challenge of Energy Security in the 21st Century, Trends of Significance, edited by Dr. Hooman himself, and is available at ICES, and you can actually log on www.bookshop.ices.edu.sg for more information. Dr. Hooman, thank you for joining us here at the National Quiz Choice and Save Hyatt column for travelers and business travelers as well. Today they are wanting to know what kind of challenges that is coming ahead in your expert opinion that's happening in the Middle East. As you know, well aware that much of the media has been talking about the transition that the Middle East is going through, and what does it mean for investors and policymakers having noticed the changes.
Well, I mean, if you are concerned about the Arab part of the Middle East, sure, it is going through a very difficult time. As you know, that what we have been, heard about the Arab Spring, so-called Arab Spring, has been quite devastating in terms of the economic situation of many Arab countries. Started in Tunisia, which is a small North African country, and actually it was doing very well, relatively speaking, in terms of social economic development, but of course there were political problems. So the problem that started in Tunisia led to the downfall of its president, and actually that triggered a process which is now actually has spread to many Arab countries. When you look at North Africa, you see that the major oil producing country, Libya, is actually in the middle of a civil war. I don't think there is any quick fix to this problem, at least in the foreseeable future, because the fall of the previous regime under Colonel Gaddafi actually unleashed all the problems that had been suppressed for a long time, and therefore one should expect the continuation of civil war conflicts, and also in a general sense instability in this North African country, which is potentially quite rich, and therefore it has been a major market in terms of export and import of many major economies. The situation in Egypt is also very bad. Of course, it is a different type of situation. Egypt is not in the middle of a civil war, but it has been quite unstable since the downfall of President Mubarak over a year ago. Today it seems that the country is heading at least towards some degree of stability, but it is premature to just be very optimistic about this, because there are still many challenges where political parties are not actually working together. The new president, Mohamed Morsi, seems to be trying to actually pull together all the pieces of the country, but we can only wish him all the best at this stage, because there are far too many political groups and interests which are actually competing with each other over power and influence. And therefore this country, which is actually, again, a major North African Arab countries, and it is relatively rich compared to other regional countries, also in the middle of major problems. Egypt is a major exporter of gas, in particular LNG, which actually is also comes to this part of the world, this Asia-Pacific region, and therefore a major problem in this country could actually damage its exports, in particular LNG, but also oil, which is at a much smaller level. It has also been exporting gas through its Arab gas pipeline to part of the Middle East up to Turkey, and therefore there are also some doubts about its continuity, because at least one part of it, which was actually connected to Israel, is no longer in operation because of first frequent acts of sabotage by anti-government Egyptian forces, and then because of pressure on the government of Egypt to stop selling gas to Israel because of pricing issues. If you look at other Arab countries which are actually also energy producers, Yemen is also another problematic situation. Yemen is a small oil producer, but it is relatively significant LNG exporters. And again, Yemen has been feeding our region over the last decade or so. And therefore, again, the problem that Yemen is facing, i.e. a civil war, which is actually expanding, could also damage its export capability, and therefore it could surely affect the global energy market, and in particular the markets in the Asia-Pacific region. There is also a fear of expansion of all these type of so-called the Arab Spring to other regional countries which are major oil and gas exporters, in particular Arab countries of the Persian Gulf, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and Oman. And actually, to some extent, they have all been affected, but so far they have kept the opposition under control. But it is not certain that whether in the longer term they can continue to do so, because, for instance, in countries such as Saudi Arabia, there are many issues. There is, of course, the dominant ethnic group are subscribing to Sunnism, the Sunnism branch of Islam, but there is a 30% of the population are Shiites, and therefore there has been this kind of problem, and Shiites feel that they have been suppressed by the Sunnis, and that they are right in a sense, because economically speaking, socially speaking, they are far inferior compared to the Sunni brothers and sisters. There are also problems in terms of equality between men and women. There has been efforts on the part of women to actually get some rights, because their rights have been in a sense completely ignored, and they are not considered as equal to men. So there's also a kind of a rising movement towards greater autonomy in a sense, and greater more rights for women. There's also a kind of, on a broad sense, a kind of civil movement, i.e. Secular forces in Saudi Arabia are trying to just actually change the overall system, which is highly religious, and so it is not tolerable for some people. And of course, there's also the expansion and rise of different versions of Sunni extremism, which is also a problem. Other countries in the region, such as Kuwait, has also not been immune to this problem. Kuwait is initially in 2011 capable of controlling the opposition, but then again in November of last year there was an attempt on the part of some people to storm the parliament because they were fed up with the system. But again, the government is still in full control, but these type of events indicate the fragility of the political system in Kuwait and also in other Arab countries of the Persian Gulf, all of which are oil and gas exporters, excluding Bahrain, which is no longer a major exporter because its resources have depleted over time. So if these problems actually expand at a larger scale to Arab oil and gas exporters of the Persian Gulf, it will be a major problem for the global energy markets, because this region is quite rich. It has over 40% of discovered oil, and more or less the same, 60% of discovered oil and over 40% of the discovered gas, and therefore its long-term stability is crucial for the stability of energy markets in the long term. So this is the situation. There are not too many happy news to report, but one should hope that at least that there should be some attempt on the part of forces in Arab countries and also the friends and allied elsewhere to address the problem and prevent the rise or expansion of destructive political movements.
What's your perspective on Israel's newfound resource such as gas that's been recently reported? And also there's this company called the Zion Oil and Gas Incorporated that has signed an agreement for oil exploration in Israel, and they're still drilling for oil, and they claim that they have found some substance of oil in Israel. Now, how would that implicate in the Middle East? If Israel does find oil, would that impose a threat to the Arabs and to their neighbors? Would there be war? Because it could be that they want to claim that their oil is theirs too. What's your perspective?
Well, actually, Israel has already found significant amounts of gas and a smaller amount of oil. It is not a secret, it's not. For instance, its Tamar offshore gas field, it has substantial amount of gas and it is under development. And if everything goes well, according to the plan, it will start supplying gas to Israel. Currently, Israel is actually self-sufficient in a sense up to 50% of its needs. And once Tamar is online, then it will be almost 100% self-sufficient in terms of gas. Oil it also has, but the amount of oil discovered, or at least to my knowledge, is still small. Therefore, Israel imports from different countries, including Russia. But it is true that recently they have found new offshore resources in the Mediterranean, which is actually going to create some problem. It has already created a problem because Israel claims, of course, ownership because it considers it within its territorial waters. But other countries such as Cyprus and Turkey have also same claims. To this we should add countries such as Jordan and also Lebanon, Syria, which also claim that they should have some share of this because, again, they consider that part of the Mediterranean Sea as potentially part of the territorial waters. And of course the Palestinians, they don't have a strong state at this moment, but again they have made some claims which haven't been heard because of their weakness, political weakness. So potentially, I mean, if all these things turns into the situation that Israel becomes, for instance, fully self-sufficient in terms of oil, it is not going to have a major impact on the Arab countries because in any case Israel has been capable of importing enough oil to meet its needs, and therefore I don't think this situation is going to change anything because Arab countries have not been its major suppliers, with the exception of Egypt. Egypt has been supplying mainly gas and to a small extent oil, but Russia and other countries have been its main suppliers of oil, and therefore I don't think this situation is going to change the overall political landscape in the Middle East because this has not been a major problem supplying oil for the Middle East. But of course, if Israel becomes self-sufficient in all types of fossil energy, then it will be in a much stronger situation. It will be actually more reliant on foreign suppliers, and therefore, in terms of confidence, it will be actually in a better situation in terms of energy. But whether it is going to change Israel's policy to the Arab world, I don't think so, because basically many Arab countries which are not on good terms with Israel have not been suppliers of energy to Israel in any case. For instance, Syria, but Syria is not a major oil and gas export in any case, but it does have some export, but Israel has never been on its list of importers, and therefore finding these resources is not going to have a serious impact on the political landscape.
What about today's Iraq? Iraq is now fully independent, and they're right now going ahead with plans to expand their oil exploration. What do you see in the future of Iraq?
Well, Iraq actually faced many problems in terms of oil exports because of over 10 years or 15 years of sanctions starting in 1991 because of its invasion of COVID and its subsequent short-lived annexation. And until 2003, it was officially on sanctions, UN and non-UN sanctions. So, oil industry of Egypt, Iraq, was in a very difficult situation because of lack of funding, investment, lack of equipment, and therefore, when the country was occupied by the US-led force in 2003, Iraq was not capable of exporting a huge amount of oil. Then what happened that since 2003, technically we have had a government in Baghdad, but as you know that there has been civil war going on by anti-government forces, anti-American, foreign forces, which subscribe to different things ranging from former supporters of Ba'ath Party and Saddam Hussein to secularists, leftists, and also extremists, subscribe to different type of extremist views. And therefore, one of the things that they have done so far is that they have targeted oil and gas pipelines, including oil exporting pipelines of Iraq, and therefore it has been a major problem in terms of supplying refineries and therefore providing enough refined products for the country, and also in terms of export. Fortunately, to some extent, Iraq has actually overcome some part of its security issues, and therefore today it is capable of exporting up to still under 2 million barrels, but it is significantly more than it used to export about a few years ago. And there is a chance that it will actually can continue increasing its exports because of relatively a significant amount of investment over the last few years, and therefore the country has the potential to increase its shares of the global market. But it is yet to actually become regain its rank of major oil exporters, which it enjoyed before 1991 when it attacked Kuwait. But if the situation continues and if there is a degree of stability in Iraq, perhaps it can actually re-emerge as a major supplier of energy. But one cannot be certain about that, because today the central government is in charge of part of the country, but it is not quite sure that how long it can actually hold on power, because again there are different forces in the country in place. Courts in the north, they have a kind of semi-autonomous situation, and the northern part of the country is where most of the oil and gas resources of Iraq locate. It also has some sources in the south, but if, for instance, the situation becomes tense in terms of inter-ethnic situation between Kurds and other parts of the Iraqis, then there will be some difficulties in terms of flow of oil from the northern part of the country, and therefore the possibility of decreasing its export. But that's one possibility. Again, expansion of civil war is surely, which is happening now. It could also damage oil and gas industries of our country and decrease its export. And also there are political rivalries within the Shiites, which are now in the dominant situation, as well as the conflict between them and the Sunni Arab counterpart, and therefore it is too early to expect a bright future for Iraq, although technically once the government of Iraq is in full control of the country, the situation will be better, but no one can tell when it is going to happen.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hooman. Till then, do join me in part 2 of the challenge of energy security in the 21st century, Friends of Significance by Dr. Hooman, right after this.